You action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Select 7-inch scale Silver Centurion Iron Man figure from Diamond Select Toys. And more specifically, we are going to look at it and compare it with the recent Marvel Legend version from Hasbro, the Walgreens exclusive one, and we're going to try and determine which of the two figures is the better one to have. So let's start off taking a look at the packaging for the brand new Marvel Select figure, and this has started to see a limited release, but should start shipping from Diamond distributors to comic and specialty shops everywhere within the next few weeks. And like with all the Marvel Select figures, you get that binder type packaging. You've got a big image of the figure on the side. On the front, the figure is clearly displayed along with all the accessories. You get the name of the character off to the side. And then down below here, you've got that classic Iron Man comic book logo. And then on the back here, we again have images of the figure. There's a brief bio here for Tony Stark. And then down below it tells us that the figure was designed by Yuri and sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios. So let's go on and get this open and take a look at the figure inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging, and I will tell you hands down the Marvel Select version wins when it comes to accessories. You get a lot more accessories with this Marvel Select Silver Centurion Iron Man figure than you do the Marvel Legend version. The Marvel Legend version just has an extra pair of hands and a couple of blast effects, whereas you get the same type of blast effects with this figure, but then on top of that you get a whole lot more. So starting off, this figure comes not with one, not with two, but three different head sculpts. So the first head sculpt is the one that's attached to the figure, which is actually kind of an odd choice, but it is the head sculpt that has the visual optical scanners over his eyes. This was a feature that we saw in the comic books where these goggles would drop down from the top of his helmet and allow him to scan things that he's looking at. So this is the first head sculpt. Again, this is the one that's attached to the figure. The goggles don't move or anything. They're sculpted on there, but they do look comic book accurate. So it was kind of a silly looking thing. You would think with an armor like this, you would just have lenses that would accomplish that. But, this was back in the 80s, so, technology wasn't as advanced, I guess. But definitely, this was something we saw in the comics, and it's kind of cool that they've included it with the figure. Now, the second head sculpt is another helmeted head sculpt. This is just the regular helmet with no extra, eyepieces or anything. This is how he normally would appear in the comics when he was wearing the armor. And you've got the silver faceplate with this one. You've got actual indentations for the eyes and mouthpiece, so it's not just like they painted it, which is nice. And then you've got that nice bright crisp red metallic paint, which matches up with the rest of the figure quite nicely. I really love the way the red pops on this figure, and I'll give you a comparison with the Marvel Legend one. But again, this is definitely an area where the Diamond Select Marvel Select figure wins hands down over the Marvel Legend version with the red paint. So definitely a nice detailing there. And this is a very very comic book accurate looking head sculpt for the helmet. And just to switch off these heads, you just pop them off. You've got the ball there, and then you just pop on whatever head you want. And then the third and final head sculpt that is included with this figure is an unmasked Tony Stark head, which is very much in keeping with how Tony looked in the comics, a very 80s type mullet. So I think they nailed it perfectly. Pretty good skin tone. However, I do want to note that I have a little bit of black indentation here on his forehead. I'm not sure if that's where some of the paint has worn. So maybe a little bit of a paint blemish with mine. But still, even with that, I think this is a very solid looking Tony Stark head sculpt. Again, with how he generally would look in the 80s with that mullet look and then the mustache. So I would say that Diamond Select Toys has done a great job with the sculpting on this one and nailing the look of Tony Stark from that time period. And just in case if you were wondering if you could put the unhelmeted head sculpt on the Marvel Legend version, you cannot. The ball does not stick up enough from the figure, so it won't snap down in there, the way, because the hole is kind of far up there in the head sculpt. So I don't think it would look very good even if you got it on there. It looks too big, but it does not actually fit on the Marvel Legend version. I just wanted to give you this comparison. So this is the old Toy Biz Silver Centurion Iron Man figure, which mine has definitely seen some wear and tear over the years. The red unfortunately faded on my chest plate there. But with this one, with the Toy Biz one, you didn't have an alternate head, but you could remove the face plate and it would feature Tony Stark's face there. So I just wanted to give you kind of a comparison of the two different Tony Stark faces, the Toy Biz one and the new Diamond Select one. And both were pretty solid looking, but I actually kind of like the Diamond Select one a little bit better. I feel like it actually nails the look from that time period a little bit better than even the Toy Biz one. Okay, now let's go over all the various hand options that you get with this figure. So first of all, you get just a standard pair of closed fists. These are the ones that are attached to the figure when you first take it out of the packaging. You also get a pair of open hands. So these, you can see his repulsor blast, which is painted a different color on the underside. Again, you've got that nice looking crisp red metallic paint. You've got the little plates over the hand. And then you get this pair of, it looks like he's trying to grip something. And again, you have the detailing with the repulsors on the underside of the hands. And then you also, besides those, you then get this pair of closed-fisted hands that are shooting out the front of the fist. So these are actually attached to these hands. The blast effect here is not removable, but it's kind of cool that they've given you that. They've also given you open hands to shoot his repulsor blast. Now these effects, these blue ones, are actually removable. They just plug in with little plugs. Now you can see on mine here, the peg got a little bent in the packaging because these actually come in the packaging attached. So if you have that problem, you may want to take like a hair dryer and heat this up, and you can probably straighten that out. I haven't done that yet, but you do get these open hands for shooting blasts out of the hands. And again, these are removable even though they come attached when you take them out of the packaging. So they definitely give you a lot of different hand options. You get a total of 5 different pairs of hands with this figure. You also get flame effects that you can attach to the figure's feet. Again, these are actually attached to the figure when you take it out of the packaging. So you can attach it so it looks like he's blasting off with his boot jets. So that's pretty nice. And these are just done with a translucent orange plastic. It's a darker orange towards the bottom, and then it gets lighter towards the top. So it looks like, the flame is getting hotter, which is nice. The figure has the backpack like was featured in the comics, and this is actually removable. It is attached to the figure when you take it out of the packaging, and you've got the hole in the back here. And so you can just pry it off. Now, I did have a little paint chip come off when I pulled it out of the hole, which is not that big a deal since you won't see it when it's plugged in. But I think it's definitely kind of cool. And this was something that he would take off in the comics. And then you can actually pry these front pieces off of the pack, and you've got some detailing. I'm pretty sure this is something you're supposed to be able to do. Again, the pegs the paint kind of came scratched off. But, you just plug them in like that. I don't remember if that was something that you saw in the comics. I think it was, but I don't know if there's really a need for you to take those off. But technically, that is something you can do. So that's definitely a nice added feature. Going back to the Hasbro Marvel Legend one, you didn't really get much of a backpack. It really didn't look that comic book accurate, and it was just sculpted on the figure. So, it was nothing that you could actually take off. And then if that wasn't enough, you get one final accessory here. So you can pry off his unibeam here on his chest. It just plugs in. And then they've given you this alternate one that looks like, he's shooting out of that unibeam on his chest. So this again is attached, so you can't remove the plastic piece from the unibeam, but it just plugs in there, and then it looks like he's shooting out of his chest, which is cool. So I'm glad they included that. And then with this one, it is done with kind of a purple translucent plastic. The tip on mine got a little bent in the packaging here, which is done with a somewhat soft plastic. Again, you could probably just heat it up with a hairdryer and straighten that out. But it's definitely kind of a cool added feature, which, like I say, you don't generally see on Iron Man figures. The final accessory that comes with this figure, which is not something we generally see with Marvel Select figures, is a flight stand. This actually doubles as a flight stand, or you can pull this out and you've just got a peg here in the clear plastic base, so you can just use it as a figure stand. The figure really doesn't need it, I would say, but you do get that. But probably what you'll use this more is if you want to try and get your figure into flight poses. So this actually attaches at 3 different pieces. This pole piece does, and it just plugs in with pegs, and each one is articulated. So and this one actually clicks, so it will hold the figure. So you get some clicky on each one of those, which is nice. This one up here is the loosest one. You do have the screws, so you can tighten it up. But then what you want to do is there's a hole in the back on the belt here, and you just plug it in. And again, if you want to try and get your figure into various flight poses, you can actually do that. So I've seen better flight stands, especially with import figures, but overall, this isn't too bad. The biggest downside here is that he does not get his head back very much for flight poses. So you can kind of have him, do him in like hovering poses and stuff with the boot jet effects. But it's just kind of a cool extra thing that, like I said, you generally don't see with Diamond Select toy figures. Okay, so as I said, hands down, I would say that when it comes to accessories between the Marvel Legend version and the Marvel Select one, the Marvel Select one wins hands down. You get accessories that are kind of on par with import type figures, and I really like how Diamond Select Toys gave us some stuff that was very unique that we generally don't see with Iron Man figures. We always see the repulsor blast effects and the jet blast effects, which we do get with this figure, but then unique things like the unibeam blast effect out of his chest, that they made the backpack actually removable is really nice, that you get the 3 different head sculpts. So definitely here, easily Diamond Select Toys beats out the Hasbro one. Okay, so now let's take a look at the figure itself. So overall, Diamond Select Toys, I think, has done a tremendous job with capturing the armor and how it appeared in the original comic books. This is probably the most comic book accurate Silver Centurion Iron Man figure in this scale or near scale, 6 or 7 inch scale that I have seen. The shoulder pads are perfect with the pointy tips. When you go and look back at the Marvel Legend one, those shoulder pads really, to me, are not terribly accurate to what we saw in the comic books. Even going to the Toy Biz one, which was a pretty solid figure for its time, I think the Diamond Select shoulder pads here just look a little bit more comic book accurate than even what we saw with the old Toy Biz one. So I definitely am loving that. Again, going back to the backpack, 100% dead on to how it appeared in the comic books. So I love that. And then just the paint on this is just so much better than the Marvel Legend one, with this kind of, hot red metallic color. This is what it, I always expected this to look like, a figure form to look like, not this kind of off red that they gave us with the Marvel Legend version. So when it comes to the paint applications, I think Diamond Select Toys definitely wins hands down. Now the silver is, I actually maybe would give the silver portions to the Marvel Legend version. It shines a little bit more. It's a little more metallic looking. So I don't know, but the red, is the most important aspect of the colors on the Silver Centurion. So overall, I still, would say that the Diamond Select toy version is the better when it comes to paint applications. And one thing you do have to be careful with the Diamond Select one is that the paint does seem to have a tendency to chip a little bit easier with this metallic paint. Like you can see here, it looks like a little bit of paint is chipped off on the back. And I don't know, I don't think I did anything to do that, so it may have come out of the packaging like that. Okay, now this figure stands. It is a 7-inch scale figure like all the Marvel Select figures. So this one stands. It comes in just under 7.5 inches tall, and it is much taller than the Marvel Legend version, which is a 6-inch scale figure. So that's not terribly surprising, but there is a comparison of the two figures together. And then again, here's a comparison with the old Toy Biz one. Again, a 6-inch figure, so not surprising that the Marvel Select one is much taller. Now, I don't have a whole lot of other Marvel Select figures to give you comparisons with, but here is a comparison of the most recent Taskmaster figure, comic book based Taskmaster that Diamond Select did. And you can see these two figures are about the same height, so I would say, I don't recall necessarily seeing these two together in the comic books, but I would imagine that Iron Man would be a little bit taller. So, the scale between the two figures is probably not perfect. Here's a comparison with the U.S. Agent, or in this case, you might want to call this the Captain. One of my favorite stories with the Silver Centurion Iron Man armor is when Steve Rogers faced off against Tony Stark. Stark, this was during the Armor Wars, and Stark wanted to take out the guardsmen, and they ended up facing off, and Rogers was wearing the U.S. Agent outfit and going by the name the Captain. So that's one of my favorite stories with the Silver Centurion, which is actually one of my favorite armors, Iron Man armors. So I don't know. I would say the scale actually works between these two. Iron Man should definitely be taller, and not 100% perfect, but I could definitely see these two sitting on the shelf together. And then for one more comparison, here is the most recent deluxe War Machine, Marvel Legend War Machine figure. Again, a 6-inch figure. So these two are not going to scale up with one another very well. And I apologize, they do not have the Marvel Legend Ironmonger figure, the comic book based Ironmonger figure, which is probably one that you would want to see. I'm going to guess that they're probably pretty close to the same height, being that was a Build-A-Figure, which, the Ironmonger should definitely be taller than Silver Centurion. But, again, being the Ironmonger is a 6-inch scale figure, I don't think they're going to be perfect next to each other. Okay, now for articulation. So this is probably the one area where the Marvel Legend figure is a little bit better, but let's go over it here on the Marvel Select figure. So you can turn the head sculpts all the way around. I really like also how the neck looks on this version over the Marvel Legend version, how it sticks up more. That was something that to me was kind of off. I mean, you do have the neck, you can see it on this figure, but I think, it sticks up a little bit higher on this Marvel Select version. So I do like that. And he really can't look down very much. You can rock the head back and forth a little bit, and you can pivot it to the left and right. You actually get more left and right movement than forward and back. So, but, in an armor like that, I don't know. It's probably would be nice if you could get his head back more for flight poses. Now with the shoulders, these pieces are a rubber material, so they do have a little bit of flexibility, and they do move with the arm, so you can rotate the arm all the way around, which is nice. You may have to, they stick a little bit when you first take it out of the packaging, so you may want to take a hairdryer and loosen it up, but these shoulder pads actually do move with the arm, so it doesn't limit the rotation. And then you can get the arm out really good, so that's not really a problem. You can't go any higher than that, but still, you can get the arm out pretty good. You do get a bicep swivel with this one. It's kind of underneath there. You get rotation with the elbows, but you only get a single hinged elbow with this one. The Marvel Legend figure does have a double hinged elbow. And then you've got rotation with the hands, and then you do have those hinges on the hands, so you get the up and down movement. You've got a midsection joint, so you've got some rotation. It's not really an ab crunch, and I would recommend caution here because I can see possibly scratching paint there, so just be careful. You do have a waist swivel with this one, so you've got rotation there. And then with the legs, he can actually do the splits really well. He can basically get the legs straight out, which is nice. So that's good. And then you can get the leg forward really nice on this one. And then you can do the leg back. So good movement there. You also get a thigh swivel. Again, with the knees, you get just a single hinged knee. So you don't get as good a bending. And the joints are kind of tight on this one. So, but you can bend about that much. So, and you do get rotation there at the knee as well. You do not get a boot cuff swivel. And then with the feet, you get good movement there. They're on these ball hinge joints, so you get good up and down movement. You get rotation. You can rotate the feet all the way around. You get ankle pivot, again, because they are on a ball joint. But I would just, again, when it comes to the red portions of paint, I would just be careful moving joints around and stuff because you might scratch that paint. And it's just such a beautiful coat of red that I would hate to see that get scratched and chipped and stuff. But you do have pretty good movement there with the feet on the figure. And then 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review, and overall, hands down, I've got to say the winner goes to Marvel Select and the Diamond Select Toys Silver Centurion Iron Man figure. It just looks so much more comic book accurate. I love the way the red paint looks on the figure. You do want to be careful with chipping. That is a little bit of a downside with that kind of paint, but I think it looks awesome on the figure. And again, I just think it looks so comic book accurate, more so than the Marvel Legend version. I also love all the accessories that they've included with this figure. You know, they did a great job with packing it with accessories. The only minor advantage that the Marvel Legend version has is with articulation. You do get the double hinged elbows and knees, and you can move the head back a little bit more. But again, overall, if you've got to choose between the two figures, I would definitely say go with the Marvel Select one. Now, this figure has started to see a limited release, as I said before, but eventually within the next few weeks or so, it should be available at all comic and specialty shops, including our sponsor Big Bad Toy Store, which does have it up for pre-order. As far as the scale goes, you know, you can make it work with some Marvel Legend figures. You're not going to really be able to make it look good with other Iron Man Marvel Legend figures or War Machine. And probably that Ironmonger Build-A-Figure, comic book based Build-A-Figure that Hasbro did a while back is probably going to be look too small next to this one as well. But you know, there is the upcoming Titanium Man, which is a Marvel Select figure, which I think will probably go great with this figure. That's another one that I'm definitely looking forward to picking up and adding to my collection. So there you go. If you've got to choose between one or the other, I would definitely recommend this Diamond Select toy one. So let me know your thoughts about this figure in the comments section below, and like this video if you're so inclined. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, guys, and until next time, I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great!